The Jets, for like feels like the longest time in forever, they had the biggest reasons of hope in 2023. And like I said, since forever, because after two struggling seasons of second overall pick in 2021, Zach Wilson, and of course prior to that with Sam Darnold, since they drafted him in 2018, I believe, they go and make this big swing last offseason to go and get Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers at quarterback just before the NFL draft in 2023. So they go get their quarterback. Okay, that's great. They got Aaron Rodgers from the Packers, but they didn't do a whole lot to supply him with help because, well, they waited a long time. A month is a long time to get that deal done. So despite all that, there's finally reason for optimism within the gangrene side of New York, and they were actually Super Bowl aspirations for this team. Surprisingly, many people were expecting him to realistically win the division, steal it from the Buffalo Bills, and host a playoff game in MetLife. But unfortunately, not even 4 plays into the regular season, that came to reality. Because, 4 plays in that Monday night game against the Buffalo Bills, disaster immediately struck. Aaron Rodgers, he tore his Achilles on the curse that is MetLife Stadium turf on a non-contact play. And, the season was over for the New York Jets. Just 4 plays into this 2023 season. Now, whether you're a Jets fan or not, like, you knew then and there that pretty much all the hopes and dreams for that season was dead. It was dead and buried in that turf. So, sure, they won that game in overtime on that punt return against Buffalo. But from then on out, it was pretty much, you knew what was going to happen from there. The same old story at quarterback. Once Rodgers went down, it was right back to Zach Wilson. The troubled Zach Wilson that gave people fits for his constant struggles, his wild inconsistency. So for Zach Wilson, he went on to start 11 of the Jets' 16 remaining outings. And like I said, it wasn't all bad, but he was vastly inconsistent under center. As the team went 4-3, and then to start the year, and then he went on a 5-game losing streak. So he did end up getting benched after week 11, just before the the Black Friday game against the Miami Dolphins, for Trevor Siemian and Tim Boyle. And Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian actually did a lot worse than Zach Wilson. Like, just look at that Black Friday game against the Dolphins. And I don't know if it was Boyle or Trevor Siemian who threw a 90 to 100-yard pick six before halftime. That's embarrassing. So Zach Wilson ended up getting the job back once Tim Boyle got released. But Wilson didn't last long because not because of poor performance, but he actually got concussed in Miami in week 15. So that ended his season, unfortunately. So hopefully he's healthy now. But in retrospect, the quarterback room was once again a big mess. And that was all because, well, Aaron Rodgers got hurt. The season ended once Aaron Rodgers got hurt. So the only reason that they won the games that they did, though, was because, well, the same reason that they won the games a year ago. Their defense. The defense, once again, had to carry this team on its back. It was a front seven led by its linebackers Quincy Williams and Jermaine Johnson II, as well as defensive tackle Quinnen Williams. They were a force. Once again, a force in the trenches, and were one of the best in the league. And you look at that secondary, led by corner Sauce Gardner, who had a really good second year, was also very effective in holding its own. And that's all despite the inept play of the offense. That defense was like a top 10 in the NFL. And yeah, like I said, with a terrible offense that just really was awful. But the offense, it had one or two bright spots, like running back Breece Hall and receiver Garrett Wilson. They made the most of it. They made the most of the crappy play from their quarterback. Breece Hall, coming off an ACL injury in his rookie year last year, he pretty much was the workhorse of that offense with his burst of speed and ability to truck through defenders. He had a nice season for himself. 1,000 yards and 9 overall touchdowns. And then Garrett Wilson, was pretty much the top receiver of the passing game with another 1,000-yard season. So, unfortunately, well, actually, let's before we get to the unfortunate part, well, let's say for the Jets, probably their best win of the season was against the Houston Texans at home in a blowout game in Week 14. Defense played lights out on C.J. Stroud and Zach Wilson. Meanwhile, he had one of the very few better games of his career, along with the rest of the offense. Now, onto the unfortunate part. The positives still don't outweigh the negatives. Because, like I said, for the third time, and probably the fourth time, Aaron Rodgers was lost 4 plays into this 2023 season. And they were met with the same 7-10 record that they had for the last year. Fortunately for the Jets, though, he committed to playing this upcoming season. And for Aaron Rodgers, he nearly made a miracle recovery from that Achilles tear, for as unrealistic as it would have been for him to come back and play when the Jets were already well out of playoff contention. But now at least he gets a full offseason to prepare to try and, well, stay healthy, barring that curse of a field that is MetLife. So, as for this past season, though, major disappointment for the Jets and a little bit of a rerun of 2022. So when you look at this offseason for the Jets, they don't have a lot of money to spend, around $22 million. So it's decent, but not a lot. They pick at 10th in the draft. So it's somewhere. It's somewhere in the draft that they can go and get their best available need. When you look at some of their free agents, some things to consider, like Bryce Hall and Justin Hardy at corner. The top need that they need to address in free agency is safety Jordan Whitehead. That's someone they should probably try to consider re-signing. And looking at some of their needs to address in the offseason as it gets underway, it's the offensive line. Like, you have to consider beefing up that offensive line, because all you have is center Joe Tippmann, end guard Elijah Vera Tucker. That's all you have. So in order to better protect Aaron Rodgers from injury and even self-injury, they need to go and grab 2 new starting tackles and another guard in the NFL draft. So they need to go and beef up that line. And then staying on the offensive side of the ball, go and get another receiver to go alongside Garrett Wilson, because the Jets have had absolutely nothing at that spot behind Garrett Wilson. So use free agency to go, and the draft, to go and find better options than, well, Aaron Rodgers' buddies, Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb. And then, well, what do you do with Zach Wilson? Are you going to let him go on his merry way? I mean, at least the Jets have given him a head start by letting him seek a trade. The question is, does anyone want him? That's the thing. I guess it just goes to show what a huge bust he has been with that second overall pick. So anyway, in terms of the Jets' 2023 season, well, it was dead. It was dead on arrival when Aaron Rodgers went down with that injury in Week 1. But it can come back stronger in the coming fall in 2024 if they can replenish Aaron Rodgers' supporting cast, despite the limited resources they have in terms of money and draft capital. But if they have a solid offseason, and if they come back healthier in 2024, I think the Jets could have a season that they didn't have in 2023.